Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Sorry, I startled Matthew there. Good afternoon, and welcome to this September 1st, 2020 meeting of the Rotary Club of Gainesville. My name is Tom Collette, your Sergeant at Arms, to welcome you to our meeting today. If you're watching this meeting as a recording on YouTube, we ask that you please log in your participation by sending an email to info@rotarygainesville.org. We begin our meeting today with a song and Pledge of Allegiance led today by Pete and Wall. Please welcome Pete to the stage.
Robert Mount,
Where are you?
okay, so we're trying to get back to normal and we're doing a pretty good job. I want to thank our leaders for doing this, and we're getting bigger, and we asked all the people that are Zooming to come to the meeting sometime. And also, you know, we're trying to get the jokes back to normal. They're not going to be any better than they were. So for today, I just wanted to let you know that there was a cow, and the cow had 4 legs, of course, but the 2 left legs were shorter than the 2 right legs. And the cow ended up in the meat counter in Publix, and Publix sold the cow as lean beef. We're going to sing today. God bless America. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Next week I can't hear everybody, so next week sing louder, okay? All right, pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pete. And now via Zoom, via the internet, we have our invocation today offered by Lori Vidal.
Are you hearing me now? Good to go? All right. I'd like to start our prayer today a little differently than I would normally pray, but I would ask you to join me, if you will, in a little different meditation as we start. We are living in troubled times locally and nationally with the pandemic and social unrest, and it just hit me. Rotary is positioned to be used as a positive agent at this critical time in history. Once you listen and reflect on the foundation of the organization, the 4-way test, it is meant to be a test of the things we think, say, and do. Now, how relevant is that? Let's use it now as a prayer for each one of us. And I'd ask you to think about the issues we face as a community and nation, and then think about what the test calls us to say and do as we think. So let's pray the 4-way test. Let's bow our heads as we pray. The 4-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? As we hear those 4 principles, it seems so relevant for our moment in time, our moment in history. And Father, in the midst of the intensity of life around us, we also want to enjoy one another as we gather as a Rotary community for programs that enrich our lives. And today, we love our state and its unique history. May we leave our meeting refreshed today, whether we're on a Zoom or in the room, to make a difference in our community and world. And I do pray in your wonderful name. Amen.
Thank you, Lori. We're going to try this. We've got a couple of our members. You may be seated, unless you have a guest that you brought with you here to the Wyndham Garden Hotel today. But we do have several of our members who are online, who have guests they invited to join us online today. And give it just a moment when I call your name to introduce your guest, to allow Joe back in Studio One to open up the microphone for you to introduce your guest. We'll start with Kurt Klein.
Hi, fellow Rotarians. Good afternoon. My name is Kurt Klein. I have several guests. Doug Jones, he's the current Junior Achievement Board Chair. Dawn Brabson, Maggie Haley, Shauna Dykes, and Jessica Blagden, all with Junior Achievement. Our Rotary Club's been supportive of Junior Achievement for over 20 years with an annual grant. And I wanted them to see how smoothly we run these meetings because Thursday, September 24th, we're having a Zoom-in breakfast at 8 a.m. And we want to make sure it goes as well as our luncheons go. So I just wanted to say thank you. They're all muted. They wanted me to say thank you for the support of Junior Achievement over the years. And contact me if you want more information on the breakfast. Or we can get some information out. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Next, we have our member, Holly Bender, to introduce a guest.
Okay, good afternoon. I have Soli Schreck with me. She is the HR, PR, and Marketing Director for Comfort Temps, and she heads up the Bourbon and Beyond Committee for the Ronald McDonald House, and we're planning our event in November. And again, I wanted her to see, as Kirk said, how we do virtual with in-house at the Wyndham Gardens. So thank you very much for making us look terrific.
Thank you, Holly. TJ Pichet, are you online to introduce your guests who are joining us online today? We do have guests from the Matheson History Museum joining us online today. Dixie Nielsen, and the Executive Director, she is the Executive Director, and other members. Welcome to our meeting today, members of the Matheson History Museum. Any visiting Rotarians today? In the room, anybody? Nope, seeing none. We go on to birthdays for September. If you're here at the Wyndham Garden Hotel, bring your dollar. These are our fellow Rotarians celebrating birthdays in the month of September. Mia Jones, Jerry Isaacs, Tom Collette, Colin Burrows, it's a true dollar. Jerry Painter, Mary Day Coker, Amor Villar, Ivan Ulrich, Grace Horvath, Melanie Shore, Rick Fabiani, Casey Scott, Kay Mitchell, I saw this gentleman earlier, Tony Barr, Howard Patrick. And if you're on Zoom, we just found out from the president that Chad King will pay your dollar. If you're on, so we'll have to confirm that. And also wishing September birthdays to two of our honorary members, University of Florida President Fox and Mike Hill. And to celebrate these September Rotary birthdays, we have the video recording of Charlie Page with Happy Birthday.
Hello, Rotarians. This is our August birthday singing that we're going to do. So let's hope everybody's having a good time.
Shut up and sing.
Well, we're going to sing Happy Birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rotarians. Happy birthday to you and many more.
Happy birthday, Rotarians. And now, with an announcement, we have Linda Reinhardt. Please welcome her to the stage, everyone here.
Hello, fellow Rotarians. I wanted to give you an update on the Indy 500.
Once again, we had a very, very successful drive, and I want to thank everybody for being a part of this. We collected over 221 pairs of underwear and $750 in cash to help our school's nurses. So thank you guys very much, and looking forward to another great race next year.
And now, everyone, it's time to hail the chief. We bring to the podium our president for this 2020-2021 Rotary year. I give you Matthew Brady.
Thank you. And Catherine, shoot, bear with me. It was, it popped up, and from the district, I had it written down somewhere, but co-membership chair for District 6970, our district, is Catherine Battenhorst, is joining in today via Zoom. And so she had reached out to myself as well as Naomi, and so she's zooming in and being a part of this meeting and a resource to us as we move forward in working on membership. So welcome, Catherine, and thank you for zooming in today. Great job, Linda and Helen and others, and helping organize. I mean, you know, it's always fun. You know, we're talking about Undies 500, but it is a very meaningful and impactful project. Y'all rock, and I'm just excited that as Rotarians that we all came through and put together great numbers to help out the schools. They have enough challenges, and that takes away one of many that they have right now. Also rocking was 6 other Rotarians yesterday, myself, Tony Farr, Steve Elder, Helen Gilstrom, Wilbur Holloway, and Buddy Irby. We had a last-minute opportunity to Brett Almighty called and said, hey, can you send over up to 10 people? We need to put together 100 boxes of food and 100 bags. And we had 2 other non-Rotarians that joined in, and we did that for a late lunch, nice little sweat, and it was great. We actually got to tell 2 other people about the great things of Rotary, and you know, it's challenging. We all have our own personal, you know, situations, and I understand there's hesitations in what we're all comfortable with, but when the time is right, I will preach this message forever that whether it be social or service, when you gather with a small group of Rotarians, that's where you're truly going to get to know one another and build long-term relationships. So when the time is right for you and the right opportunity presents itself, please take advantage of it. You will be rewarded, I promise you. I have over and over, and very thankful for that. Last week, I had commented about Africa claiming victory over polio. And so I had some email correspondence this week, and our very own Colin Burrows was reading an article in the Smithsonian Magazine, and he noticed that there was like 0 reference to the impact that Rotary has made. And so he reached out to the author, and they quickly updated the article. So shout out to you, Colin, for making sure Rotary is recognized for the great things that's done only because of us as members and the monies and efforts that we put forth in the eradication of polio. So thank you, Colin, and keep up the great work yourself in other areas that you have spearheaded. So we're hybrid. So with hybrid, we're going to have 2 different opportunities for introduction of members. We had 3 new members in August. That was it was awesome. Thank you for all that have helped in recruiting and bringing forth. Today we are going to induct 1 live and 1 via Zoom. So hybrid at its best. First, I am going to ask new member Guy Joplin and his sponsor Danny Gillian to step forward up front here and allow us to recognize Guy as one of the newest members of our club. So I put down a couple pieces of tape to try to get them spaced out here. So, but fellow Rotarians, as president of the Rotary Club of Gainesville, it's my privilege and pleasure to formally induct and welcome a new member into our service organization. The person, Guy Joplin, who stands before us today, has indicated their willingness, interest, and determination to help enhance the quality of life in our shared community, state, nation, and world. Through their involvement in the Rotary Club of Gainesville, and by extension, their involvement of Rotary International, they will have this opportunity. So, fellow Rotarians standing now in support have indicated their willingness to extend the good works and service of Rotary by inviting this community leader to join us. So I now ask all Rotarians in this room, and if you're on Zoom and you feel inclined to do so, please stand. Show us support of this new member, Guy Joplin. The Rotary objective is to encourage and foster the ideal of service as the basis of worthy enterprise. The Rotary Club of Gainesville has been serving this community continuously since 1918, and by coming before us today, you have shown your commitment to helping continue the work of Rotary. By embracing the ideal of putting service above self, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you as a member of the Rotary Club of Gainesville. I encourage you to become a very active Rotarian and to become fully involved in the service and fellowship activities of this organization. I now present you with a Rotary pin and Rotary membership certificate. Thank you, Tom. Didn't really think about those logistics. But we present you with this pin that you can proudly wear and membership certificate. And congratulations and welcome to the Rotary Club of Gainesville.
I met Guy a couple of years ago when I talked to him. I met Guy a couple of years ago when I talked to him into joining our board through YMCA. He immediately rolled up his sleeves and worked hard for us, and actually now serves as the board chair of the Y. So I think he will be a great addition to this team. He's somebody that cares about causes like what we do at Rotary, and I'm excited to sponsor him into it. I will check your hand. Thanks, Danny.
Guy will do his craft talk in 2 weeks, so looking forward to that. Now, so I said we have a virtual, and well, we're gonna a little bit different. This is a reinduction, and it'll be an introduction into their craft talk. So second new member, or one of 3 new members to our club this month is no stranger to most of us. And this is a testimony to, Zoom and this hybrid format. His schedule took him away from us a few years ago because of spending half of his time in Jacksonville and conflicting and being out of town on Tuesdays, but he's now able to Zoom in, loves this group, has been a great asset. He has understood over time the opportunity to serve, the fellowship of Rotary and what it means. He has brought us some dazzling stories and some great invocations over time. But we are very honored to have back as a member again, Reverend Kevin Thorpe. And he is now a member, and Ms. Bobby Hall helped in encouraging him to come back and sign up. And so thank you, Bobby, for that encouragement and helping coordinate and bringing him to our new format and structure. So we welcome back into service of this club, Kevin Thorpe. And at this time, I'm going to have Joe allow him to bring Kevin for his craft talk.
Thank you all so much for having me back. My name is Kevin Thorpe. I was born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. Graduated in 1991. I am 46 years old. Interestingly, I am now the same age that my parents were when I was born. They were 45 and 46 years old. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. I like to tell folks that they kept trying until they got it right. So thankfully, I get to be here. I originally joined Rotary back in 2013. I've served as the senior pastor of Faith Church since 1998, so I'm in my 22nd year. But back in 2010, we were doing our second building project, and our architect and our contractor were Mike Conroy and Michael Pellet. And every day, about 1:15 to noon, every Tuesday, they would leave the job site, and they were telling me that they were going to Rotary. So they did that throughout the entire building project. And finally, I asked them, please tell me about this place that you all are going every Tuesday. And they said, why don't you come and see for yourself? And I did. I was enamored then. I'm certainly enamored now. And I was privileged to join in 2013 and I was a member all the way until 2018 when, as Matt mentioned, my life schedule changed and it caused me to spend a lot more time in the Jacksonville area. But I'm honored to be back. During my 22 years in Alachua County, I have served more than 21 different nonprofit organizations. I love Alachua County. I love Gainesville, and I love being a part of any organization that is working to help people. So again, I'm honored to be back, and I thank you so much for having me.
All right, Matthew, I've got it. You had your, no one could hear you, so we were like in this dead air, despite what the rest of the room thought. I am proud to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Ben Brotemarkle. Apologies for butchering your name, Ben. Is Executive Director of the Florida Historical Society. He's producer and host of the public radio program, Florida Frontiers, the weekly radio magazine of the Florida Historical Society, and public television series, Florida Frontiers. Ben is also an award-winning educator and author, and I'm super excited to be able to bring you today, Ben. Dr. Ben, take it away.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and the pronunciation was perfect. That's my name, Ben Brotemarkle, and I'm really happy to be here today. I want to thank you all for doing it in this hybrid format to keep your membership and your presenters safe and healthy. It's a difficult time, but you're obviously adapting well. I always love speaking to Rotary groups because it forces me to be succinct. I usually talk for an hour or more, so I promise not to do that today. We will, I just want to give you a quick overview of the Florida Historical Society, and I'm looking to share a screen with you now. And there we go. Okay. Well, as was mentioned, I'm Executive Director of the Florida Historical Society, and the organization was established in 1856. Well, my slides are not moving, but okay. Well, let's see. I apologize for the delay, but let's see if we can't get these moving. Well, there we go. Okay, sorry about the delay. The Florida Historical Society was established in 1856, making us the oldest existing cultural organization in the state. We were founded in St. Augustine, and since that time, for about a century and a half, moved all over the state. And in fact, we were based in Gainesville for much of the 20th century, the middle part of the 20th century. But we are now proudly based in Cocoa Village, in kind of near Cape Canaveral in Brevard County, which is where we have our Library of Florida History. And our Library of Florida History has thousands of rare and out-of-print books, maps and documents dating back to the 1500s, historic photographs and postcards. We have over 17,000 postcards, all sorts of great research materials, and people come from throughout the state and really around the world to come and do research. Anybody doing research on any aspect of Florida history is bound to find something in our archive that they want to see. The Florida Historical Society Press publishes at least 5 books a year, sometimes as many as 10 books a year. We publish nonfiction books, of course, as you would expect, but some people are often surprised to find that we publish novels as well as nonfiction books. A lot of history teachers tell us that that's a great way to reach kids in particular. Some kids think that a history text might be radioactive. They would never touch it, but a novel will engage them and get them introduced to history that way. The books that we publish as novels, though, are, as I say, based strongly in Florida history. We also reprint historically significant works. One of my favorites is Palmetto Country. Stetson Kennedy, many of you probably know, was with the WPA Florida Writers Project in the late 1930s and early 1940s. He traveled all throughout the state, interviewing all different kinds of people in our diverse population of Florida. We've always been one of the most diverse populations in what is now the United States and remains so today. And Stetson recognized the importance of that and the value of that. He went all over the state talking to people like with a big, heavy precursor to the tape recorder. He talked with Greek sponge divers, for example, in Tarpon Springs, and also African-American turpentine still workers, and Native Americans of the Seminole tribe, and just an incredibly diverse group of folks throughout the state. And he wrote about it in the book Palmetto Country, which we were happy to republish. It had been out of print for about 20 years, and we added a bunch of new photographs, and we're very happy to republish Stetson Kennedy's first book. We also published his last book, The Florida Slave, and he died before that actually came out, but he got to see the cover and the proofs and was really happy with that. And so the Florida Historical Society Press publishes all sorts of books on Florida history and culture. We also published the Florida Historical Quarterly, which is edited by Dr. Connie Lester over at UCF. It has scholarly articles on a wide range of Florida topics and is the primary benefit in Florida Historical Society membership. Again, a tie to Gainesville, Samuel Proctor, who was a history professor at the University of Florida, was the editor of the Florida Historical Quarterly for more than 4 decades while the society was based there and after. The Florida Historical Society also owns and operates the Brevard Museum of History and Natural Science in Cocoa. And we like to say that the museum features everything from the Ice Age to the Space Age. You know, it's great to watch little kids walk in and look at our fully articulated mastodon skeleton and our giant sloth looking down at them, and the saber-toothed cat we have. Kids and adults walk in the room and are really awed by that display. And it goes all the way to the Hubble Space Telescope. We have floor-to-ceiling images from the Hubble telescope, courtesy of Delaware North and the folks at NASA, and models of the shuttle and the telescope. Just a really fascinating exhibit there. And in between, we have all sorts of pioneer culture and everything in between. We sit on 22 acres of nature trails, which go through 3 Florida ecosystems. And so there's something to see there. The centerpiece of the museum is the People of Windover exhibit. And in 1982, there was a backhoe operator named Steve Vanderjack who was clearing away muck to build a housing development in the Windover Farms, what would become the Windover Farms subdivision in Titusville, right across from the Kennedy Space Center and near the intersection of I-95 and State Road 50. And he was clearing away muck with his backhoe, and he looked and he saw that he'd uncovered a round brownish object. And he realized that he got down off his backhoe, looked at it, and realized it was looking back at him. It was a human skull. And he realized he'd uncovered several sets of human remains. So the police were called in, of course, and it was quickly determined that this was not some serial killer's burial ground or anything. They were in fact old bones. So an up and coming young archaeologist from FSU was called in named Glenn Doran. And he realized they were old, but nobody was ready for the carbon dating tests, which indicated that these remains were between 7,000 and 8,000 years old. They were 2,000 years older than the Great Pyramids in Egypt, 3,000 years older than King Tut. Just an amazing find. What made it even more amazing was that over 2 years, 3 excavations over 2 years, they uncovered nearly 200 sets of intact burials that were ritualistically buried in the same position, almost all of them, with the exception of just a couple. They were wrapped in the oldest woven cloth found in North America. Just an amazing find. And they had used this pond as a cemetery. And so for over a century, the same group of people would bury their dead. They'd wrap them in this cloth. They'd stake them down with branches that had been bound together. And we don't know how much they knew about the science, of course, but they were very in tune with nature. The pH balance was just perfect, and the anaerobic environment was just perfect to preserve these bodies amazingly well. In fact, 91 of the skulls had intact brain matter in them. We know that one woman's last meal was fish and berries. So just an amazing find. We learned so much about prehistoric people. Some people might imagine that if someone, for example, was too injured to participate actively in the group, that they'd be shunned or banished or even killed. But it was evident from one teenage boy who had the crippling disease spina bifida that he had been cared for many years. There was a woman who had multiple fractures on her limbs. Obviously, she had been cared for over time. So the Windover dig really changed our perception of prehistoric people. And at the Brevard Museum of History and Natural Science, we have the only extensive exhibit on the Windover people, and the only place that has the original artifacts from that dig on display. And we've recreated the dig site and a laboratory, because of course archaeologists spend a lot more time in the lab than they do out in the field. So we have a hands-on lab for kids and adults to enjoy. We also had an artist named Brian Owens. This is Holly Baker, who is the director of the museum, and she is also a contributor to Florida Frontiers, which we'll be talking about in a second. But we had an artist named Brian Owens, who you might know from the square there in St. Augustine. Back in 2011, they unveiled the foot soldiers, the St. Augustine foot soldiers monument that celebrated people who participated in the civil rights marches of the 60s. And we had him do an amazing sculpture for us that you're looking at here, the Windover woman. And we had the measurements from an actual skull of a Windover woman. And much like, police agencies or the FBI today would reconstruct a skull to try to figure out who the victim of a crime was, we had him create this realistic sculpture. So you can come to the Brevard Museum and look into the eyes of a woman who lived between 7,000 and 8,000 years ago. That is also the home of the Florida Historical Society Archaeological Institute. We publish an annual full-color magazine that is free and actually available online as well in digital form, called Adventures in Florida Archaeology. And we also go to the Florida Anthropological Society meeting every year and have a display, and also publish books on Florida archaeology. But the Florida Historical Society has a long history with archaeology. We've been preserving history, prehistory, for more than a century. We were the first to collect Native American relics in Florida, first to promote and publish archaeological research. Clarence B. Moore, who I could talk about all afternoon, but the archaeologists have kind of a love-hate relationship with him. He was an early archaeologist, and his methods were questionable, but then again, he documented a lot of important sites and artifacts. He became an FHS member in 1907 and gave us his written works to our library. He helped to create FHS helped to create the position of the Florida State Archaeologist, and the Florida Anthropological Society started out as a committee of the Florida Historical Society, and now is its own thriving organization. So the Florida Historical Society Archaeological Institute is the latest in this long history of FHS participating in and promoting archaeology. We also operate the historic Rossiter House Museum and Gardens in O'Galley. And with the focus recently this past week on the suffragette movement and the 19th Amendment and women receiving the right to vote in this country in 1920. Well, in that same year, a woman named Carrie Rossiter, who was just 23 years old, her father was the Standard Oil agent for the entire area that would become known as the Space Coast. And when he died, she wanted to keep the family business. So she went up to Kentucky to a board of directors meeting and asked if she could keep this Standard Oil agency that her father had operated so successfully. And she listened at the keyhole while the board of directors argued about it and were yelling about it. And finally somebody said, "Oh, let the little lady have it. She'll fail in a year and we'll give it to a man." Well, as it turns out, she didn't last a year. She lasted 62 years, becoming the longest running Standard Oil agent in the country. Upon her retirement in 1985, we have a signed note a handwritten note from Ronald Reagan, congratulating her on her long service and her successful career as a businesswoman. And we proudly operate her house museum in O'Galley. Some things you might not expect a Florida Historical Society to do. We have a lot of humanities-oriented programs as well. And any way that we can get history before the public, we do it. And one of the things we do is periodically present theatrical productions based on Florida history. And as in 2013, as the 500th anniversary of the naming of our state by Ponce de Leon came up, I kept getting asked, well, what are you going to do? How are you going to recognize this? And also getting calls from people who wanted us to endorse their site, their town, as the site where Ponce de Leon landed. Well, we decided to have a little bit of fun with it while getting out all of the factual information. We had a theatrical production called Ponce de Leon Landed Here, and it was performed in historic courtroom venues around the state, including the Volusia County Courthouse, the historic Volusia County Courthouse, which is pictured here. During that performance, we also had it simulcast to an audience in Tallahassee at the Museum of Florida History up there. But I served as the judge, which amused my sister who's behind me there. She's an actual judge, and she participated along with other actual judges and attorneys to represent the four most likely places that Ponce de Leon landed. And so after those presentations, we had the Ais Queen, the Native American queen, who was here talk, and she said who could tell from the coastline now? She saw them land, but who could tell where it was? We had Clarence B. Moore, who I was talking about, say that no archaeological evidence had been uncovered. And then Ponce himself testified. Then we had Chris Call, who's known around the state for his songs about history and culture. He played while the jury deliberated, and as you might expect, they came back hopelessly deadlocked and unable to reach a verdict, because we don't know exactly where Ponce landed, although there are many theories, all of which we explored. So we had fun with it, got all the factual information out there, and it's a thing that we like to do. We have other theatrical productions like Female Florida, Historic Women in Their Own Words, and others as well. And I could talk all day about those, but I will move on. Our most effective educational outreach probably are our media programs, Florida Frontiers, the weekly radio magazine of the Florida Historical Society, and our television series, Florida Frontiers. But the Florida Frontiers radio program has been on the air since January 2009 on radio stations, public radio stations throughout the state, NPR affiliates. And Florida's a big state. It's almost 3 separate states culturally as well, but it's a huge state geographically, and difficult for any one organization to have a real statewide impact. But our radio program has helped us to do that for more than a decade now. It's heard in your area Sunday morning at 6:30 on Florida's 89.1 WUFT-FM. You may also be able to get it in your area Thursday evening at 6:30 on 89.5 WMFV. A lot of people in your area can probably get that as well on Thursday evenings. You can always find it online at myfloridahistory.org. And I was happy to hear the Matheson Museum folks are at this meeting. They were featured on the program just a couple of weeks ago. And coming up this week, actually, we feature the Alachua, the Native American group, the Alachua branch of the Seminoles, on the radio program. Florida Frontiers Television has been around for, let's see, 5 or 6 years now. And it's similar to the radio program. The radio program has 3 distinct segments, so that can be radically different periods of history. We can have the something on Native American, Native Floridian culture in the first segment, and then something from the 1930s in the second block, and then something more contemporary in the third block, maybe from the 1960s or the 1500s. The TV program, on the other hand, always focuses on one subject, done in a documentary style, and we've had great success with that. It too, like the radio program, is available anytime at myfloridahistory.org, and it's also broadcast on public television stations throughout the state, from the Keys to the Panhandle. One of our most recent programs that was extremely popular was on cracker culture and cracker cattlemen in the state of Florida, and talking about who they were and what the term actually means. The term has gained a negative connotation sometimes, but that's the term actually came from Shakespeare, from a play, King John, who was talking about Scottish people and Scottish braggarts, and in the play King John, and those same Scottish people emigrated to the Carolinas and Georgia, and then eventually made their way down into Florida. So that's the likely origin of the word cracker, although some say it's cracking of the whip, cracking of corn, but I like the Shakespeare theory. I think he gave us so many words, and cracker is probably another one. Usually this time of year, we're getting ready for our Florida Frontiers Festival, which features music. Again, another way to bring people into Florida history. But this year, we are not doing this particular event because of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. Our FHS annual meeting and symposium is something else that we always look forward to. It takes place in May every year in a different Florida city usually. We have scholarly paper presentations in each morning for 4 days, and then in the afternoons we take tours of historic sites in whatever town or city we happen to be in. And we have an awards banquet and all sorts of fun things to do, as well as the scholarly paper presentations. Our current situation, of course, has changed that as well. We had to cancel our meeting in May, so coming up later this month, we are having our first virtual annual meeting and symposium, and our theme has changed to adapt to the times as well. Our theme is 2020 Hindsight, How Florida's Past Informs the Present and Future. And we, as you can see, we have these presenters and more. In fact, not pictured here is Dr. Zohara Simmons, who is a professor at the University of Florida in Gainesville for past 20 years. But the panels, we're going to have a panel called Going Viral, Pandemics in Florida, another one on civil rights, equality, and racial justice in the age of Black Lives Matter. Also a panel celebrating 100 years of the 19th Amendment, Florida Women Breaking Barriers, and also some of the other events that I was talking about. We'll have our online FHS Awards presentation, our membership meeting, and other things as well. And it all culminates with the Gerald H. Schaffner Lecture on Florida Culture and History. It's presented by the Florida Historical Quarterly and the University of Central Florida. And it's going to feature historian and legal scholar Martha S. Jones. So it's going to be 4 days of great things, and you'll be able to access it online and on Facebook. And it's really the people of the Florida Historical Society, of course, that makes everything that we do happen. We have a great staff, a creative staff, and a supportive board of directors, a great set of volunteers, and of course our members that really make everything that we do possible. And I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about the Florida Historical Society, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, as this format allows.
Yes, we can take some questions to Dr. Ben Brotemarkle. If you have a question here and you're at the Wyndham Hotel, Wyndham Garden Hotel, please flag down Don Bugos. He has the wireless mic to take to the crowd. We have a few questions from our online participants. We'll start with one from Robert Mounts. Ben, why did the society relocate from Gainesville?
Well, we moved around a lot over that 150 years. We were usually associated with one institution of higher learning or another. And Samuel Proctor had been, as I say, involved for a long time. He started the Samuel Proctor Oral History program there at UF. But the decision was made by the FHS leadership at the time that they wanted to relocate to the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg. And so that was the last place that we were beforehand. But it was Samuel Proctor who really spearheaded having FHS there. And the focus changed, and he was involved in the decision too, though. But the leadership at the time decided it was time to move to a different venue.
Your next question is from Maureen Tartaglione. Besides the one periodical you mentioned earlier, are there any other publications available electronically for us?
Sure. Well, the Florida Historical Quarterly is actually available electronically as well. Its new issues are available to members, although you can find back issues online. The 5 issues of our, we've been doing it for 5 years, the magazine that I mentioned, Adventures in Florida Archaeology. But yes, you can find our Florida Historical Quarterly back issues from, I think it's now 3 years ago back online. And if you are a member, you can access the brand new issues online or in hard copy.
This next question comes from Toby Monaco. The historical significance of the property on which Dollar General wants to build in Micanopy.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
There's some historical significance of some property that Dollar General wants to build in Micanopy.
I don't know right offhand. You would probably, it's hard to walk on a piece of property in Micanopy that isn't have some historical significance, but I don't know specifically the property that Dollar General is looking at. There's probably somebody at your local historical society who'd be better equipped to answer that. Sorry, I can't be more help with that. I do want to go back to the last question real quick. I want to mention that a lot of our Florida Historical Society books are also available as Kindle ebooks too.
Okay, last question. This one from the podium. How can people find you on social media? Can they sign up for an email list?
Thanks very much for asking that. Yes, we have a very active social media presence. We'll start with our website, which is myfloridahistory.org, all spelled out, one word. Myfloridahistory.org is our website. And it has access to many of the things I've been talking about. There's a quick link to our TV show and all of our radio shows, as well as information about the society and making an appointment to do research. There's a lot of things at that website. We also have very active Facebook pages. You can find us at Florida Historical Society, which has a daily Today in Florida History, as well as information about each week on our radio program and information about our TV shows. And also Florida History from Your Couch is another segment we're doing now. As well as the Brevard Museum of History and Natural Science has its own page. The Rossiter House Museum and Gardens has its own page. Florida Frontiers also has its own page. But everything on the Florida Frontiers page can also be found on the Florida Historical Society page, most everything. So yeah, we have a very active social media presence. Probably the best way to start is our website or the Florida Historical Society Facebook page.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ben.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
It was great to hear in a lifetime Floridian. Very much appreciate Florida history. And today, joining us Might not be exactly history yet, but I would like to send to you our Rotary theme coin. Rotary opens opportunities. And also is highlighted by a great invocation from friend Laurie, and I'm glad he highlighted it, is the Rotary four-way test, which is a very historical statement in the life of Rotary. So I'd like to send that to you, thanking you for your time and sharing with us today. And thank you again.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me here.
So, and you know, for each of you out there, we learned a lesson today. I missed guidance from the president and pushing a button to Tom, not his fault. So I will shoulder that. We missed a few comments, not a lot. I was thanking Kevin and commending Kevin for how excited I was to see him back, and that we would, him being in two places, we'd be able to give Kevin 2 four-way tests. Hopefully he still has his original, and we'll get him another one for Kevin so that he could have that. Another item I was thanking was the fact of thanking Kirk for having so many junior achievement guests today. You can see you were here to see Zoom and see the process, and little things can happen, but you know what? You being in this format, we get a redo. So we can come back and circle around and cover anything that was missed. So no harm, no foul. Thank you, TJ, and all the guests from the Matheson here today. So history today, we broke 102 between live, Zoom, and in the room. So I think that's history. I don't know. In my books, it's history. So next week it'll be history, so, as Tom said. But thank you again to everybody. Great meeting, great presentation, Dr. Ben. And before we end, we've got a quote. Thank you, Tom Collette. He gives me like 4 options every week, so it's amazing. And he's doing an amazing job. We much appreciate it. Quote, Augustine, Florida is God's way of reminding us who's in charge. Blaise Clement. Thank you for September. Have a great week.